ChainCulture.
Oh, Durian boy, how are you? Oh man, you're smelly. Oh. Oh. Who let you in? No, Bobby. No. Huh? What? Oh, you smell nice. Ah, Malaysian durian smells good. Okay. Well, glad you're here, Durian. I was already afraid you wouldn't make it, but here you are. Was Delasia, Erasia? Of course.
I was waiting for the durian to fall down.
No.
I was waiting the durian to fall down.
No.
I was waiting until this morning only fall down.
Okay, great. Well, I think everybody can take a pic with Durian Boy. Smell nice. And then I want to invite up the stage fellow community member from the Hive blockchain, project lead for world mapping. They're over there, meet some of his colleagues, and also organizer of tomorrow's Beer Saturday event, which is the longest running community on the Hive blockchain. Detlef, he'll be the moderator of the Real World Assets panel. And we have on the panel Dunstan, please, welcome. Hey Dunny, we haven't met. Great to be here, all the way from Singapore, as well as Bobby, all the way from Singapore. And then Ernest, you're local, right? You just saw Ernest. Oh, Ernest is from Hong Kong, so we're a very international crowd here. Okay, the floor is yours, guys. I'm gonna grab some mics. Helps.
Seat yourself. So, real world assets. It's a more or less newer topic to many people, or it's an old topic. So today we like to get some overview about the market and yeah, what's about. We saw all your nice, wait a second, I have one in my pocket. I have a real world asset with me, look. I don't have a clue how valuable this is. We work on that later on. But anyway, real world assets are way more than this. And the next few minutes, I like to have a chat with you about your products, about the market, which is enormous, as I read and looked up on the internet. So please, each one after another, say your name and try to short explain what you're doing, and let the audience know what and why you are in real world assets.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Bobby. I'm the co-founder and VP of Datuk Durian. So in simple terms, where we grow durian, we sell durian, and then we distribute the dividend back to the investors. We have a farm in Malaysia, Pahang. We turn durian farm into an investment opportunity that anybody can invest, right? Like when people think of durian, they either think of smelly, think of nice, don't think of delicious, but nobody had ever thought that they could become a durian farm owner.
We will go in details later on, just a short introduction.
Sure, yeah. So please go ahead. Yeah. So in detail, we turn durian farm into an investment opportunity. Yep.
Ernest.
Yeah, we doing like a trading card platform to, yeah, just quickly show in case someone is not really familiar, something like this. This is the collectible cards. We do the RWA project, so this tangible cards go into the vault. Then we mint the NFT 1-to-1. So which means this, let's say this is the vault. You sit at the vault, it's fully secure. Then we can just trade the ownership.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward. Yep.
Dunstan.
Hi, I'm Dunstan.
Dunstan, sorry.
So BTCOG. So as RWA project, we hold a couple of sovereign level contracts with some royal families and governments across the African region.
So as you see, we have three panelists with total different approaches to real world assets. And this, for my opinion, shows that there is a newer market upcoming, and there's many other things to do. So let's start with this. Dunstan, you are long-term crypto already. So how do you why and how do you said this real world asset market is so interesting?
Like in the early days, real world assets, they had very little liquidity because everybody is looking at them as securities itself. But right now, the market has matured significantly. There's institutional players and even retail players are able to trade 24/7. But what's happening now is that people are more open and more exposed to trading exotic financial products itself. I think that's something interesting, and they get exposed to different geographical locations, investments into different geographies itself, like including commodities, money market funds, financial products, and so on.
Let's get a little bit more grip on it. We talked a little bit up front, and you said something about South Africa and investing into farmland and other things. Could you explain that project a little bit?
Okay, so on our end, right, we actually have the partnership with the royal families of the major tribes, which is the largest land bank across the South African ecosystem. Also a couple of partnerships, sovereign level partnerships with a couple of other governments in Africa. What happens is that we are able to tokenize valuable assets across the African ecosystem, like mines, agriculture, off-taker contracts, agriculture off-taker contracts. Also able to tokenize their infrastructure lands, power stations, and things that already are generating, whether or not it's rental yield, generating returns, has land investments and so on across the ecosystem.
Which brings me to the basic principles of real world assets. Means we all are here for Web3 worlds and so on, and with a real world asset you have a proof of ownership, a digital proof of the ownership of a physical good. Yeah? So this is something new for many people. If I go home to Europe and tell the people that this is possible, they start to think about it, and the market will probably as well grow. So it as well is for art people some kind of certificate of authentically. So this is really a picture, I don't know, that artist made, or this is really a card which has a value. So explain a little bit more how you do this with your kind of real world assets.
For our case, I guess it's much more straightforward than Dunstan. Dunstan doing is maybe a little more high level and complicated structure, I guess, right? So our idea is pretty straightforward because actually I'm not a Web3 guy. I'm not a technical person at all. I'm just a collector. So why am I sitting here is I'm trying to use the Web3 technology to solve some real world problem. So I just mentioned that those physical cards is hard to transact, and you can't use it as an asset if you don't have a system to manage it and tokenize. We don't use tokenize. You can just like a piece of gold, right? If you don't have a system, it's hard to trade, right? But of course, let's say the gold market is already well developed for hundreds of years. And collectibles for me is just a new piece of gold. So yeah, we want to do it. We want to build an infrastructure to help the collectors to let the asset can go into some sort of system. And I found before I didn't figure out how to do it. I just dreaming of it. But in this year, some of my friends introduced like Dunstan, maybe some experts, the RWA NFTs and all that. After I study a little bit, I guess is really could solve the problem we are facing. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, Bobby, Durian and NFT, or how does this work, what you're doing? It sounds interesting for us as Europeans. Durian, I like Durian Boy, but Durian at all is something I have a little conflict with.
Yeah. I think durian is like the Malaysia fruit, right? Like king of fruits, right? Like the consumption in Malaysia is crazy, and traditionally, in order for someone to own a durian farm as a business, millions of dollars, right? Because like durian is very profitable. However, there's a lot of cost requiring to invest. But with RWA coming out, we can actually fractionalize the whole business, and then we can tokenize the whole business. So what does it mean? It means that anybody can be a durian farm owner, right? And why is this important, right? Actually, in the whole world, in the whole Malaysia right now, agriculture business are facing an issue. They are unable to get loans to expand their business because traditional finance do not like this kind of risk at all, right? But many of them are very profitable. In fact, I would say a lot of farmers are millionaires, like on paper for sure, right? But we know that we have to help agriculture business because food is fundamental of the whole human needs, right? So what we are doing is very simple, right? Of course, our project is one good case study. Instead of lending money from banks, we tokenize our business. We get capital from anybody in the world, right? And we make good returns for them, right? Because the durian returns are pretty high compared to a normal investment, right? So I think with RWA, this is what we are trying to do as well. Yeah.
Now, we understand there are many different businesses for real-world asset. And I really like it because since so many years in Web3 worlds, it's the next step for several things. But if we have such a nice party, the bad boys came with regulations. So how and what kind of regulations do you already see? Is this a problem or is it just something which even gives more value to the market? Whoever wants to answer.
Well, personally, as a BTCOG, right, my own personal stance, I don't really like regulations. It's just me. But understanding, however, different industries, whether or not it's food industries, securities industries, and so on, regulations are there to stay, whether we like it or not. So to me, it's just an administrative process and it's a cost to business. And for the retail people, right, I mean, I don't understand why, but the retail people actually look upon that if there are regulations, these assets are safer investments, or they are investments that so-called governments endorse. So they kind of prefer that, and that means that it brings greater liquidity, greater exposure. The depth of the market becomes a lot deeper because it's not just institutions can come in, retail also can come in. In fact, to be honest, right, most of the liquidity doesn't really come from institutions. The bulk of the world's liquidity actually come from the retail market.
Okay. Ernest, is this more something hindering the market, or is this something where you say, okay, this generates even some more trust for the cards you are doing?
You mean the regulations
Yep.
thing? To me, myself, because I'm more like a traditional businessman, I think it's good because, you know, even I guess Dunstan have experienced a lot of RWA project is kind of it's like a scam because there's no regulations. Let's say everyone can do the tokenize your house, your car, your watch, everything. But who do the custodian part? Who really verify that you are really tokenizing your house, right? If you have no regulations, no lawyers, no auditors and all that, so for me it's good because I'm like an old head, like the photo, okay? I like that, but of course there's some cons as well because Web3 idea is more decentralized and more free flow and all that, so it makes the project development more complicated and all that. So, and the cost, of course, the lawyers, auditor, accountant, and all that. But I guess it has to be there. But how to find the balance, I have no idea.
So it's a no and a yes in a long sentence.
I more prefer to have.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah.
But I don't know the others. Just for me.
Okay, Bobby, how is it going with your business and regulations?
Yeah, I personally, right, I might have a slightly different opinion from Dunstan, right? Like I definitely believe in like decentralizations and self-custody. But based on my experience interacting with like Web2 people, it's kind of hard. Like I give an example, right? I share with my father about Ethereum, Bitcoin, about wallet. They don't really understand at all. All they are asking me is that, okay, is this regulated by the government? Right? Retail often has this perspective, regulated equals safer, right? So I think this is a perspective that we cannot change to the mass public. But what we can do is to adopt them and to really like play around the rules, right? I believe that regulation is definitely going to stay or not, whether we like it, right? How do we embrace it? So which is why I think a bit different about us is that traditionally crypto you issue as an ICO, right? Initial crypto offering. But what we are doing is a securitized token offering. Why do we do that? Because we are bounded by security laws, right? It means that we are obligated to deliver what we promise, right? If not, we might go to jail, right? So I think this is what we are doing in advance. I would say that many people are not doing it, but we foresee in the future, eventually it will get there. So we are like trying to move ahead, a few steps ahead, so that when things come in, we can tell everybody that, hey, we are already doing it. Yeah.
Okay. We talked a lot about all your projects, but as we know, the world is bigger, wider, and so on. So you're in that market quite a while. I like to get some insights of crazy projects, of something where you never thought it could be tokenized. So you might all have some ideas, even if they're positive or negative, before we go to more sophisticated things afterwards. So anything you like to say, you can mention about strange projects?
Well, I guess being one of the pioneers, we were the first group, actually we were the first company on earth that tokenized wine futures. In fact, because of that, I actually had a collection of, well, it's an interesting collection of rare wines that's from like all sort of different vineyards, rare vintages and so on. And wine futures is kind of a unique thing. Not many investors know about it unless you are extremely high up in the financial echelon itself. So yeah, that was kind of one of the crazy things that I did. A bit too early of my time, but actually most of my portfolios are way too early.
This brings me to the part that with that kind of tokenizing things, believing that this is correct, some of the very special wine experts might be obsolete because I have a token and this is really the wine what the cover says. Ernest, any strange projects you know? Mustn't be your project, maybe something else.
To me, there's almost everything. So maybe tokenize those beer, beverage and all that. Some of those, I just don't get it. What is the point to do the RWA? Because, you know, as I mentioned, a lot of people is just try to build something that a little bit gimmick, a little bit more fun, and try to grab some money. I don't really buy those, because if you just creating those hypes, we all know that it come fast, go fast. Yeah. So not my thing. So to be honest, a lot of crypto projects like that. So, but I guess sitting here is not. So that's why we're here. Yeah.
Bobby.
Yeah, I think I've seen many projects, but I think I want to speak about broader terms, right? I think meme coin is a very interesting concept. Like, before meme came, even ICO itself, right? The project got to have some fundamentals, the project got to have some like teams members or whatever, right? But meme coins has changed the way how capital is being accumulated, right? Pop, 100 million valuation, pop, 1 billion valuation, right? I think this has shown to people that attention is very important in the space. How do you get attention? How do you get community? It had never happened before, right? The closest was MLM, but even MLM system, you take time to build, right? But meme coin has shows that, you know, you can actually create a wonderful business or wonderful attention game in just a short span of time. Yeah.
Okay.
So Durian Man can do it. Durian Man.
Durian point meme token?
Yeah. Do a meme coin.
Maybe.
These crazy ideas bring me back to the real world problems you have with real world assets. So as you all did something, what was your biggest challenge to bring that asset to life?
Well, I think the biggest problem why in the initial early days of like securitizing, of doing RWA in the early days, there wasn't liquidity at all because it was securities, the regulations were not there, they were not matured enough, and people didn't understand. So there was very little liquidity, there was very little people investing in those early RWA assets. But as time goes by, like even now institutions are in, like we have the largest asset managers on earth, like from like some of the major geographical locations coming in, and they themselves are looking to tokenize stuff. But I think everybody is taking a very, how do you say, like they're just dipping their toes in. They're trying, right now they are only trying to tokenize more liquid assets like money market funds. I believe that credit, microcredit, credit lines, bridging loans and so on would be the next wave. Whether or not it's for investors, like even retail investors like us, for businesses itself, because at the end of the day, everybody wants some level of capital and wants some level of support, right? Whether or not it's their products, like, you know, one people buy sports cards, one people buy durian, invest in durian farms, or like agriculture, the agriculture cycle, like people might not understand, like say for example, I have pig farms across Philippines, and I would also want people to be able to come in, invest in those pig farms together with me, and then, you know, like provide bridging loans to the farmers itself so that, because what's happening around the world is that access to capital is extremely difficult because of banking. They call it rules, they call it regulations, they call it AML, they can call it anything they want. But to me, it's a banking soft embargo on industries and geographical locations, especially like places like Africa. A lot of foreign investments are not allowed to go in, large amount, because the banks stop the funds, saying that, you know, it's money laundering, the regime is corrupt and so on.
But what you say is what we see in Europe as well. Regulation hit banks heavily, and they make them way more carefully
Correct.
to give money. Did you say that real-world asset and the market behind this could help farmers and others who won't get funds from the bank, as they get way more easy funds to do their business from Web3 projects?
Yeah, like say for example, in Bobby's case, right? Right now we can have, like any of the people right now here can provide some funds to him because he has already tokenized, has already RWA his durian farms itself, the business itself. So they could invest in it without going through farms, without going through banks or financial institutions. I think that's the main important thing, the access to capital without being affected by banks, financial institutions, and honestly, even the regulators itself. Because right now, right, if I want to invest in Africa, I want to invest in some tokenized US business, I can just send them stable coins, I can send them BTC and so on. I recommend sending stables and not BTC. Yeah, so, but then I become an investor in a region where I don't even physically need to be there.
Okay.
And if anything happens, right, at least on my end, the records are there on the blockchain. I have a recourse to it. I can have a legal recourse because they can't change their part of that system.
Ernest,
Sorry?
something to that question, because
Yeah, I guess Dunstan have answered most of the questions, right? So for me, I guess one of the challenges is the stereotype. The people, let's say, to Web3, NFTs, RWA, on all these terms, they might not really understand what is behind, but is already stereotyped as a scam or high risk or whatever. It's just like stock market. So I would say like maybe 100 years ago or maybe even more, if you talk about stocks, just normal stocks now, but in like those days is kind of like a scam or something like that. So people need time to see the reality. Does it really deliver? So all the technology, whatever white paper and all that, to me, is not that important because most of the people are not looking at it, right?
Just want their return.
Yeah, just like you apply for a credit card, you won't look at the policy, right? And when you buy insurance, you don't look at the book. What we see, why we trust the bank or the insurance company is because when I have something, the insurance pay me back. We see the result, then we trust. Most of the people is like that. You can't like give him a law paper or whatever to gain the trust. So I guess this is the key. To build the trust is the key. Nothing else is more than that to me. Yeah.
Again, you say, and I like to say it with my words, in former times we trust the banks, now we trust that kind of project even more?
You asking me? No, I just mentioned, it depends on the result.
No.
Does it deliver? Let's say my cards, does it really deliver? If they buy the cards, if they claim it, am I going to deliver the card?
Yeah.
And also there's like Durian and all that, when they have the profit, are they really going to share the profit to the investor? Until that day, it's hard to prove.
Yeah.
So what I just mentioned is to build that trust is hard because a lot of them is already stereotyped. And that's why we have to strive to go through the benchmark.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bobby, biggest challenges.
I totally agree with the trust. I think projects should adopt the don't even trust yourself system, right? Like humans can always change. Whatever we say now, whatever we do, it can be affected by emotion, market crashes or whatever, right? But we need to create a system that no matter what happens, people can, the product is still there, right? So example, like you say, you put in a vault, right? Like for us, we put our land in a trust company, neutral trust company in Hong Kong, fully licensed, right? So that the land can forever remains, right? And like for example, projects, they should put their funds in multi-sig, right? It shouldn't be bound by one individual, right? Because one individual can make a mistake. But if it's like multi-people who hold the account, of course, it reduces the risk. So I think all companies should really adopt the practice of how can we create a system where no humans, reduce the humans' involvement so that things can go without them. Yeah.
Okay, I need some feedback from the regie because my clock says we should stop and I'm out of control of this. Roland, where are you? Anyway, let us come to a conclusion session. So each of you might come with your conclusion on the development of real-world asset for the next, let's say, 2-5 years. Bobby, you like to start?
Sorry?
A conclusion of real-world asset for the next 2-5 years.
Oh, I'm not a prophet. I can't make a prediction, but
use your bowl out of use your bowl out of glass. Yeah. Look into it, and
I sincerely believe that it will eventually touch the retail, because I think at this current stage, right, like it's very hard to convince the retail just to buy Ethereum and Bitcoin, because if they don't understand, they don't understand. But I think RWA is a very natural progression between TradFi and DeFi, right? And at least in RWA, the whole token are backed by real assets, or some better case like us, we are backed by real profits, right? So you know that the things are there. You can verify it. You know that that money won't go missing, right? So I believe that in the next 2 to 5 years, the important thing is who can target the retail. How can you create a product that retail understand and buy into the process? And that's what the RWA is going to be like.
Yeah. Ernest.
Yeah, totally agree what Bobby said. As I mentioned, the key is the result. So if the coming years, see the project, does they deliver what they promise. If more projects deliver properly, the market will go up, definitely. So some people are just like we're sitting there and we just observe. See, is it real? Is it really happening? Like before we didn't buy, even trust Elon Musk, Tesla, does it work? All that. Most of the general public is like that. They sit there and see. So if you ask me, just like Bobby said, we don't know, but it depends on the outcome. If most of the RWA projects are success, it's good. So which means the trust is gained. You can't just one project. Let's say I really do it properly, but let's say not you are, some of them are not. That really affect us. So I wish all of us success. If all of us success means I'm more easily to success. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah. So I'm not really a humble guy, so I'm just going to make a couple of predictions. Yeah, so I actually believe that the next wave of wealth is the next change, geographical, I should say geopolitical change, right? Most probably the next places where it will start prospering would be India and the African continent itself, which is why we are focusing very strongly on the African continent. Like Middle East is there, but like the Middle Eastern side has already prospered on their end. So we believe that it's more of the developing parts of the world that's going to start growing up in wealth. So regardless of whether or not we are going into like things like World War III and so on, it doesn't really matter because the next financial cycle is going to be important, and planting ourselves before these places prosper, whether or not has investors, has partners, has liquidity providers and so on in these ecosystems, right, would be beneficial to us. Like say, for example, like from 2009 to 2012, I was already telling my friends, you know, come and mine BTC with me. But nobody knew what Bitcoin was. And my gamer friends were all like, we just play games together. We don't want to talk about a scam or an MLM. Then you know what happens. A couple of years later, suddenly, when Bitcoin hit 100,000, everybody started coming over. I'm not interested in Bitcoin. Can we talk about it? So right now, I'm talking about RWA assets and telling them, you know, Africa will be the next new thing. It's up to you to figure out whether you want to join the fund or you want to just sit there and wait.
For my understanding, as somebody who is not as deep in real-world assets, but I already have a few. I have this very special ape gin. Accidentally, it showed up, and some other things. I really like that market. And as you talked so much about trust all the time, this brings me that real-world assets is a trust layer of things you do, you use, you might even sell. Because whenever I sell a picture and I painted it, it will look ugly but might be art. It's different as a well-known artist, but with this trust certificate on it, it's a value. Yeah? And this is what you described quite nice for me as a new way to have value. We didn't talk about second markets and all these other things, so there are probably way more stuff around. But nevertheless, thank you for your time. Thank you for your input. I don't know what happened with the time. It gave me, we have 6 more minutes. Nice. No, but I think we did a wrap up already. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the impact. And for you, maybe we use a little bit time for having a question to the audience. You need a microphone. You need a microphone.
What is the protection in the tokenization of real-world assets against dilution? what protects from just re-tokenizing over and over again, to raise more funds and to therefore diluting the value of the tokens that the original purchasers of the tokens had?
The protection against dilution.
Yes.
Yep. So what is the protection against dilution of the token, the asset, and so on?
So depending on your RWA asset itself, let's say, for example, if it's like a tokenized REIT, acts exactly like a REIT. It's just that because it's on the blockchain layer, right, you know exactly when it's going to be traded. Like if a trade actually happens, it's supposed to be public if it's on the public ledger. So you can see it in real time. So that adds a layer of trust. I will not call it trust. I call it trustless. It's a trustless layer because it's all run by tech and human intervention is not needed in that sense. So that brings a level of transparency in a sense. Whether or not transparency brings protection, however, it is still based on corporate structure, whether or not, you have the ability to claw back, whether you can sue the company if anything happens, whether or not there are other financial institutions. But the biggest thing that's happening right now is that many tokenized RWA assets, you might need to be a bit more wary because they are often distributed by third parties. So you might not know where you are able to, how do you say, where you are able to draw the governance structure from. And that's where it's a bit dangerous on that end. So at the end, right, it's still you and the platform that you are interacting with that you need to be a bit more wary about.
Okay, thank you very much. I just saw that we are over time and don't have any, it was confusing here. Again, thank you for your time, thank you for your talk, and hope you learned something.
Thank you.
ChainCulture.